begin now with the webinar. So we're welcoming everyone in one at a time. Hello and welcome to another Persia webinar. My name is Tahira Danesh. I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of Persia Educational Foundation, and it is my pleasure to welcome this afternoon London time and this morning LA time, Bita Milanian, whose webinar we've been waiting for a number of months with great admiration and anticipation. This webinar is also being moderated by Leila Mansouri, who is another shining star in the Iranian diaspora community. So I will offer a brief introduction about both individuals whose full biography was included on our website and also in the registration page that you perhaps went through on Eventbrite. So for detailed information, please refer back to those bios. But just to refresh our minds this afternoon, Bita Milanian was the Executive Director of Farhang Foundation, one of the outstanding organizations that serves the Iranian community in North America and throughout the globe. She's currently the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing for Ribbon.com, which is a publicly traded global communications company serving 140 countries. She's also the founder of the creative agency Butterfly Buzz, which she still operates as a vehicle to continue her humanitarian work, support up and coming artists, as well as nonprofit organizations in order to enable them to increase their profile and optimize their brands. Leila Mansouri is an attorney at law, although an American Iranian. We have the pleasure of having her here in London, UK. She works internationally, is an event organizer extraordinaire, and a community activist interested in a range of causes. I'm grateful to both of them for being here today, and I welcome both of them. At this point, I would like to mention that Persia Educational Foundation is a UK-based charity. Our cause is entirely focused on advancement of education in the Iranian community in the UK and beyond. We have a number of services that we offer the Iranian community in the UK, the details of which are available on our website at www.persia.education. We welcome all expressions of participation and donation to support our scholarships, as well as educational events that serve to enrich the Iranian community and their friends in the UK and throughout the Western world. With your permission now, I'm going to hand over to our dear moderator for this afternoon, Leila Mansouri. Leila Jan, welcome. Bita Jan, welcome. Over to you, Leila.
Hi. It's nice to be here. Thank you, Persia Education, for the opportunity and for all that you do. I've been to many of your events before the pandemic in person and virtually, and you guys do really great work, and thank you. So to keep this kind of casual, I wanted to start by giving a little story about how I came to know Bita. Bita, several years ago, I was lost on a street in Rome, and I wandered into this boutique and this dress boutique, and I bought this dress that I had never seen anywhere before. Fast forward maybe a year later, and I'm watching a Persian woman in tech promo video, and I see Bita wearing the same dress. So I reached out to her and I was like, where did you get this dress? So it turns out we both found this dress in a random shop in a random street in Rome, and we became fast friends. And also we both are Virgos. We were both born in September, and we both love organizing impact events. So I feel as though, and then we finally had the pleasure of meeting in person at our mutual dear friend Andy Madadian's Hollywood Star ceremony last year, just before the pandemic. So I really feel like we've known each other for a long time. And I really enjoy, I'm sure if you haven't already seen her, if you don't follow her on social media, I highly recommend it, especially her food page, which you will see on the slides, Bita Kitchen Official. We learn a lot from her, and we love her dedication. So I guess, you know, what everyone is wondering is, what did you discover to be, well, to be the secret of your success? I guess we can start with that.
Hi, Leila June. Hi, Tyler June. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm so grateful for this opportunity and being able to talk to everyone about the topics that I'm super passionate about. So when Tyler June reached out to me and we started talking about what topic to talk about with this presentation, this is what I thought would be most relatable to myself, something that I believe in, the three principles of me and my career and what we would consider success. But before we jump into answering your question, Leila, that was such an amazing story, what happened to us and how we connected and how we are where we are today. So I'm so grateful for Persia Educational Foundation for you to be the moderator, because it was just the perfect match. So thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And yes, I can't believe it's been over a year and a half almost since we last met here in Los Angeles and before the pandemic at that amazing event. So I'm grateful to be here. I think once we get into this presentation, it will kind of highlight why I feel if there is such a thing as success. I don't like to call myself, super successful, but I've enjoyed my journey. I've enjoyed the career that I've had because I've followed these three the principles that I have. One of them happened to me being technology and how I got involved with that industry. But being a communicator and being a networker together using tools like technology have really been helpful for me to get to where I am today.
Great. And what were the challenges you faced given your background from the Middle East while living in the West?
I've always tried to use my diverse background as a way to really use it as an advantage point. And I think whenever you're truly, comfortable in your own skin and who you are and what you stand for and the story, everybody has a story, which makes it their brand. And you really stand by that and you share that honestly with whomever you're with, it really helps overcome some of those possible challenges with being a Middle Easterner and living in the West and all of the discrimination that we've heard about, and especially being a woman in technology. It's a very male dominated industry. It's really up to, I've tried to stay my course and work harder than probably my peers to not allow an opportunity for me to be singled out. So that's kind of been my approach. It's worked. I can't really pinpoint a specific incident where I was discriminated against or had a challenge being a woman of MENA working in the tech world and in the business world. If anything, it's actually been a positive thing for me. So if you ask my American colleagues, they all relate to me in some way, shape, or form, or find me interesting in what it is that I do outside of my everyday work. So.
Right. And just, I wanted to throw in one thing you said reminded me of all your work on the census. Although you maybe haven't been personally discriminated against, you do so much for the Iranian community to get them to complete their census reports. And great.
I mean, there is, I was talking about myself specifically in the tech world and in my business world, but generally speaking, as a community in diaspora, especially here in the US, where we have the opportunity to be counted for so that we can have a voice, I think it's important for us to do those things, and also all the great benefits that come along with that. That's why I've been so passionate about being part of the US Census campaigns over the past 2 decades. So once we jump into the presentation, I think we can dig more deep into how all these things play a role.
Sure. Did you want to share any examples of cultural differences you've seen, or would you like to tell us about how you found your path and who you look up to?
I think I think we wanted to jump into the presentation first and then come back with the questions. No, is that what? Because I think some of the questions can maybe be answered in the slides.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Is that cool?
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's do it. Thank you so much, Leila June. So again, thank you so much for the invite for me to be here to share my perspectives on 3 important elements that all of us in everyday lives, no matter what part of the world you live in, our need to have it in order to be able to be successful, to function basically. And one is communication, one is technology, and the other is networking. So they're so interdependent with one another, as important they are individually, but they're truly interdependent as a concept with each other. So there's our ability to communicate with each other, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's one-to-many, or many-to-many like we're doing here today. And there is technology, which keeps us connected, again, like we are here today, in more powerful ways that we can imagine. Sometimes, we say, oh, technology, wish there was less of it, but really, if we, once we dig deep into this presentation, we'll see the power of technology, how we can use it for good, and how it has been playing such an important role, especially over the past few months during the pandemic. There's technology that can solve the biggest problems, and technology that can actually do some harm. So we'll talk about all those things. And of course, there's networking, which combines communication and technology. And in the tech world, whether it's private networks, wireless networks, and then there is personal and business networks, social networks, news and entertainment networks, scientific and educational networks, and of course, humanitarian networks, and so much more. So, and the network of networks being the internet. So this is how we all come together as a global community, using all these 3 elements in order to be able to grow, give back, and basically function in everyday life. So before I get into more specifics of these 3 topics, I wanted to share a little bit of background about myself, how I entered the business world, and specifically technology, the tech world, which has been really a blessing to me that when it did cross my path at the age of 22. So the girl in the scarf on the left side of the screen, or my left or your right side of the screen, is me in 1985 Tehran in my passport photo, a year before my mother and I left Iran as refugees to Germany, and lived there for about a year and a half before my father joined us. My brother joined us a month later. My other brother stayed back in Iran, and I never saw my grandmother again, and then went through the whole refugee life for 2.5 years before my parents were able to get us immigration status to come to the US in 1989, where I have been living ever since, here in Los Angeles. So I've been here almost 32, 33 years. It's been a wonderful, challenging, beautiful journey. Like some people, most of us relate to this journey of this being a refugee, being an immigrant, and all the challenges that come along with it. And the woman on the other side is me in 2017 at the announcement at NASDAQ, at the announcement of our new company's name and brand as a result of a merger with another company. I joined a company called Gemban in 2014 when I left Farhang Foundation to take on this role. And then years later, we've had multiple acquisitions and mergers. And in 2017, we merged with another company called Sonus. So I was responsible for rename, together with my executive team, with the 2 CEOs, to rebrand, rename, and ring the bell at NASDAQ as the new company called Ribbon Communications. So it's been an amazing, incredible journey. And the reason I shared the 2017 photo at NASDAQ was that really it was a very, I've had many points in my life where I felt really blessed and very lucky to be doing the things that I've been doing. Again, because I worked hard, I tried to do my best along the way and took advantage of every opportunity that was presented to me. But being there had an impact for me to look at being somewhere together with these incredible business leaders who have given me this opportunity to do this grand thing. And really, it was a pivotal point for me to feel, wow, I have done something right along the way, but I still have a long way to go to continue growing, because I don't believe that these are just stepping stones to the next stage. So, and the way I got into the tech world, I'm just going to touch on that real quick, is that I was again given an opportunity by my family in Canada, in Toronto, who had started the technology company, telecommunications company in 1996, and asked me to go to Toronto for a few months to help get that business started. And I had no idea anything about computers, technology, nothing. So I really worked hard for 12, 14-hour days, learned the business, and then I moved back to Los Angeles in 6 months later to kind of get started with my career. And ever since, it's been an amazing journey to be a part of an industry that really is making a difference in the world and in our everyday lives. So let's touch base a little bit on about some stats around technology, communication, and everything else, and especially social media, and how we're all engaging with each other using the internet on a day in, day out basis. So this is a slide that talks about, so I wanted to use these really cute images. I hope you enjoy them. They're really meaningful. Each of the images that I have shared in this presentation have deep meaning. So I try to have some talking points, and then at the end, we'll answer your questions that I'm sure you're submitting, or Leila will also have some questions. So today, 4.72 billion people around the world use the internet as of April 2021, just a month ago. That's more than 60% of the world's total population. And this number is still growing. So with our latest data showing that 332 million new users came online just over the past 12 months. And we know why that is. And here's another view at the same thing. So internet users are currently growing at an annual rate of 7.6%, equating to average of more than 900,000 new users each day. However, the coronavirus pandemic has had a big impact on internet user research, so actual figures may be much bigger. So we'll have to wait to see when the stats come out in the next few months. Here's a snapshot of numbers as of, again, April 2021 on digital around the world. So social media use continues to grow, which with global users reaching 4.33 billion as of April. And that equals to more than 55% of all the people on Earth. The number of social media users has increased by 13.7% over the past 12 months. Again, we all know why that is. And more than 520 million new users have joined social media since April of last year, equaling to a growth of 1.4 million users every day. So just imagine the power of this, the internet, technology, communication, all coming together to connect the basically global community together. Access to the internet has solved many challenges during this disruption. It has allowed children to continue learning, teachers to continue teaching, which again is another bit of a interesting point in history, because we've been telling our children to stop using their tablets and to use less, to have less screen time. Yet during the pandemic, we had this shift. So there's a lot of challenges with the parents and families to go through these changes of behavior. But at the end of the day, it has helped keep children in connection with their friends and continue learning and being able. So there's always these pros and cons when it comes to, especially with technology, how do we best use it and how do we balance it? So it's definitely a balancing act. Access to the internet, as we all know, has allowed doctors and nurses to treat patients and therapists to continue providing mental health services. Again, another huge part of coming out of this pandemic and in everyday life, to continue having access to medical professionals and especially mental health service providers. And internet has also made it possible for hundreds of millions of users to continue working from home and work from anywhere, and to keep businesses and the economy going. And of course, the internet was essential in not only on the business aspect of things, but also on the humanitarian side. and being able to help people in need at any part of the world. This is one of my most favorite humanitarians in the world, Chef Jose Andres, who really has done an incredible job using technology, communicating with the different communities that are in need. And currently he's in India with his campaign Chefs for India, and really every day using technology, social media, power of communication to stay connected and getting the world to really pay attention to issues at hand on the humanitarian side. And of course, we all got to order our groceries and our food during the pandemic using technology, and also create jobs as a result, because people were out of job, but then there was opportunity to be working with some of these apps and delivery services that can help you stay, continue moving forward. Communication made possible by the internet helps us solve really massive problems and address extraordinary challenges. That's a good thing, right? But internet-based communication also creates problems, among some of them being misinformation. So for example, the conspiracy theories spread really false information about 5G and how it causes is one of the sources to the coronavirus, and it just so many incidences with with antennas being destructed, and today some people refusing to get vaccinated because they believe there's going to be a microchip implanted in them. On the topic of 5G, which is an area that I'm also very interested in, and something that my company where I work, we offer services through. I've done a lot of blogging on this topic, which you can find on my Forbes Communications Council blogs. If you're interested to learn more about 5G, you can check it out there or message me, and I'll be more than happy to send you the link to those articles, because I think it's important for us to educate ourselves about all these issues that concern us. A valid way, whenever things change or grow and are impacting our everyday lives, it's an area for us to really think about them on our own and try to do our own research to really understand the truth and find facts about them. But for all these risks, which we must address, as I said, through policy and security and protecting freedom of speech all at the same time, it's communication and networks and application, including social media, are continuing to help us connect with each other to address climate change, food insecurities, access to education, healthcare, and the creation of new jobs. And our daily lives can continue being impacted in every good ways, and our future looks bright as innovators create advanced technologies that make miracles happen. For example, robotic surgeries performed remotely, and so much more. Well, there's no question that innovation in the realms of communication, technology, and networking will continue to drive change. I believe in, change is a good thing, and we need to go along with all these things that come our way and not resist. The question before us is, what will change look like? How can society design the change in the world they wish to see? How can we ensure equity as trillions of dollars flow into digital and physical infrastructure as part of the economic recovery? How can we all really play a role in all of that? So these are all questions I'm just putting out there for us to think about. There's no direct answer to any of them. Everybody can, really go and research and figure out these are just topics that I wanted to just put on everybody's minds to be conscious about. So, and for all the progress we've made in the digital divide persists with massive disparity right here in the US and around the world as far as it concerns to internet access. So for example, to give you perspective, in Norway, 96% of the population have access to the internet, whereas in Somalia, the percentage drops to 2%. And here in the US, believe it or not, we still have, one of the richest countries in the world, only 85% of the population has access to the internet. We still have pockets here in the US that have no access to internet. So again, that's an area that companies like Ribbon, like where I work, and others are working hard to bring access to those rural communities to give them access. So all this said, this is a moment for us to come together to address all these issues together, to solve our greatest challenges by investing in broadband, which is something that it's a human right, essentially, for for people to have access to internet is the basic necessity for anyone in the world today, to be connected, to have the access to technology. And we need to start thinking about the ability to connect, communicate, collaborate, again, as a human right in this hyper digital world. There are many definitions of networking. So coming to networking, we've been discussing, I shared with you all the physical networks and virtual networks and the internet and the integrated facilities. That Internet of Things and innovations and more can be so powerful and interesting when it comes to networking. But networking comes in so many forms. It comes in a form of, physical networking, something that we've been deprived on over the past, 12, 14, 15 months. And we're slowly in some parts of the world coming back together to live events, because I think that's one of the most powerful ways to network, is by having the face-to-face connections, or networking like we're doing it today here remotely from all parts of the world. And the way we do it on social media, whether it's on LinkedIn or other places. So the power of networking is really crucial for us to really grow and succeed in the world. I covered some of the science and the potential for all three of these to come together to make the world a better place, but nothing happens without networks of people, whether it's business networks, social networks, and of course, humanitarian networks. I think that's one of the most crucial part of this whole thing. And at the end of the day, what matters is the best forms of communication can take place, again, without technology or networks at all, as we move forward together to find a better balance, time to enjoy our families. And I think the pandemic allowed us somewhat to do that, because we had more time to connect with our families and loved ones, to really rebuild our relationships, reevaluate our relationships, and make ourselves stronger and more focused in what it is that we want to see, and how we want to see the world to be as a better place. So that kind of wraps up my overall presentation on these three topics, and we can be talking about this forever, but you can connect with me on any of these social media platforms if I can ever be of assistance to answer any questions. And I want to turn it over back to Leila June.
Wow, thank you so much for that. It was so interesting, and I could unpack everything you said and just talk to you for hours about that, especially 5G. So thanks for telling us about your blog. I'll check it out.
Thank you.
So just to go back a little bit to the beginning, I guess you've told us a little bit about your journey and your path, and the challenges you faced. And I guess the next question is, who do you look to for inspiration? Do you believe in mentors? Do you have mentors?
That's a great question. I have been lucky enough to cross paths or be recognized by whether it was an executive within my company or a colleague or peer who saw potentials in me. And I actually have one mentor who has been part of my life and journey since year 2000, 1999-2000. And she's just been an incredible source for me to be inspired by, to look up to go to whenever I have a challenge, who has actually opened up pathways for me, put me in front of people at the right place at the right time. And at the end of the day, it's very important, I think, for us to look for mentors, but sometimes mentors find you because you show interest and you show commitment in what it is that you're doing and how you want to grow, and how you show curiosity and you show interest in things that are outside of your scope of your work. Ever since I remember starting my career, I never stuck within my marketing role or whatever role that I was in. I always tried to collaborate with other people within the company that were in other departments and other groups, so that I can continue learning. And by doing that, I created this persona that, oh, that's somebody who's interested to grow, who wants to help, who wants to learn more. So that's how I think that's how it really starts with you. You can't just say, well, I don't know what to do, and then expect to find a mentor or someone who comes and teaches you the way, the pathway. It really starts with us, and not being shy to reach out to people who we look up to or are inspired by, and ask them for guidance. And most times, people who are successful or have found their path and are accomplished want to give back if they are change makers, if they have that attitude and personality about the world and people around them.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Sometimes I think, especially maybe in our cultures, people might be too shy to talk to people in other departments or try to take on work that's not in their role traditionally. But I think that's encouraged, and based on what you're saying, it's good to do.
Absolutely.
And you are the ultimate superwoman, work-life balance. Sometimes I'm just, in such awe of everything you full-time job, and then you taking care of your family and your step grandchildren and managing your healthy cooking page. Do you have any words of wisdom for that, for work-life balance?
Well, I've never been, I don't know about superwoman, but I've definitely been somebody ever since I was a kid. I remember doing so many, I always wanted to have a hand in things and wanted to do things, and was always an active person in my community wherever I have been. It's just part of my nature. But as a result, when you're also younger, you tend to not realize not having a balanced lifestyle, how much of a negative impact it can have on you, especially on your health. And so, yes, I have kind of been on overdrive over the past 20 plus years, but the past actually 3 years, I've tried, because of health problems that I've faced. And that's how the Bita's Kitchen journey began, is how do I go back and fix myself, and be good to myself before I can be great to other people around me. And I think it's, it all comes down to time management and passion, and how much you want, what you want to accomplish in every day. And finding that balance is not easy, but I try to do my best, and I try to be there for my husband, who's been very supportive of my journey, which is another blessing that I've had over the past 20 years, being married this September and being together for 23 years. Having, being a good balancing partner, it has been obviously an advantage point for me, having loving parents, having people, friends around me that have supported me. But at the same time, I've tried to give back as much as I can, as much as I've received, if not twofold over, because that's how this cycle of being a change maker and being a productive human in society works. But with all that said, I think it's more important than ever for us to self-care and take time out for ourselves, find a hobby, do things that make us happy, both mentally and physically.
And how do you optimize your relationship with your, what do you think about mixed families, and how do you make the best of that?
We come from, most cultures, have had this, it's been a taboo, having stepchildren or marrying somebody with children, and how the whole dynamics works. And I've been lucky enough that I've been in a relationship where we communicate. And I think in any relationship, going back to the topic of this presentation, I think the importance of communication and talking things through. And we don't always have to see eye to eye. We all have our own views and opinions about things. But in my case, I've been lucky enough that I have a partner. We have had a very open conversation about things. And even with outside noises that can come through in a mixed family relationship, what have you, we've been able to tune it out. And by just being a good, friend and a member of the family, and being loving and kind to each other, we've been able to work through it, and it's been wonderful. So I think we need to just talk about things and work things out, and that's how we can all progress and be happy at the end of the day.
Great. So I guess let's switch gears back to technology. And we've had also a number of questions that are tech focused coming through. So the first one is, how do we get the best of social media to advance good causes?
That's a great question. And I think it all starts again with each of us. I mean, this is a very broad topic, broad question to answer. But I think every single person, whether they have a 20 people network, whether it's followers, whether it's connection, or 200,000, I think we each have a voice, and we can't discount what we can say as an individual to our small audience. That sometimes people have had communication. Well, I don't have as many following, so I can't. My voice won't matter. So can you please share it? Or I'm sure they do that to others that have even bigger following than me. But I beg to differ. I think each of us can be a change maker. Each of us can really use social media for good. And, and also being able to differentiate good from bad, and not and get, sometimes people say, well, there's people that put so much negativity out there, or they're shallow, or their content is not of value, but they have so many followers. Well, we don't have to engage with those types of people. So we can shift our focus on the good, and really that's the only way to make a difference, by being each of us being the individual who's choosing to follow good and spread goodness, and things that are helping humanity, in my opinion.
I agree. Even if you can influence someone in your own family, or
absolutely
their opinions, or teach them something, it's a domino effect. So I agree. So another question is, what are the ethical dimensions of technology we need to be mindful of?
Well, technology, as we all know, is so broad and has so many different prongs to it. And, obviously, if we're talking about advancement of technology, how it impacts the environment and all those things, I think if there are, luckily, most countries around the world, most especially countries that are developing technology, there are initiatives that are controlling and looking over all these efforts that are happening, so that they avoid, any sort of mishandling of advancement of technology, so that it's somewhat controlled. So as far as us as individuals, using technology for good, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if we're using tech to access things that are unethical, then that's one thing. But I mean, it's a very broad question to answer. But as far as the advancement of technology and growth of technology, I think there is definitely, just like the all the things that are being monitored by United Nations and other entities that are really monitoring these things. Hopefully more nations will get on that same bandwidth and move forward in a positive direction.
Thank you. And what do you think is next in technology as far as careers? What could people focus on to be successful? What areas I think
there is no better time. I'm telling you, I'm so lucky that I got entered into this industry. Now you have to also realize I entered the traditional telecommunication industry, which is still something that I'm part of. But since then, technology, which was back in 1996, and since then we've had this incredible advancement of different sectors in the tech world, that is continuing to grow, and it's going to only get bigger and more impactful and the way we live. So just find your path of what it is that is of interest to you, and kind of try to focus in that sector, and then from there network, and reach out to me, and if there is an area where I can help you with, I have access to different segments of the industry that I can possibly connect you to. But there is no better time than now to really think about having some sort of an involvement with a tech company or tech project, something that really opens up our mind. Because if we don't get on the bandwagon of what technology can do for us and what it's doing, and kind of resist it, it's only doing ourselves disservice. So I highly recommend it and highly encourage it.
Right. And I think
if it's your
Well, pretty much every industry is going to tech, or it's already has a tech segment. So I think, like you said, find your passion and then figure out how to intertwine it with tech.
Exactly, exactly.
Do you think communication is better on or offline?
Both. I mean, it's been challenging with, with the pandemic to have, again, these networking events and in-person gatherings, if we're talking about, business networking. But on the personal front, definitely face-to-face conversations are more effective, and miscommunication can happen when you're texting or emailing. And for example, in my team at work, we have collaboration tools, and I see sometimes on a project, there's so many exchanges on that tool, or whether it's on email, and it gets to a point where you just have to pick up the phone and talk to the person. Or if you're in an office environment, just go knock on the door and talk to them in person. So it really needs to be a balancing act. But if it comes to a place of crisis or conflict, I think always face-to-face conversations are effective.
I agree. And what is the biggest challenge you faced in your tech career? If you give us
challenge. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a different answer that's kind of, I think, is gonna help with this. So I started my career in technology telecommunication in 1996 when I was just 22 years old, and wasn't even 22 at the time, just turned. And fast forward, I was in the industry until the year 2009, 10, 11. And that's when I shifted my career, and I focused my career in the nonprofit world and getting involved with the Iranian American community, and helping with the Farhang Foundation at the time. So that was a 5-year solid disconnect from the industry. Now, I did stay in touch with my colleagues. I did network. I did continue networking in the telco world. I was still part of Women in Technology boards. I really didn't fully disconnect myself, but as far as knowledge about the industry, I really had a big gap when I took that role on. I still had my business networking going, but as far as really learning about the industry and all the advancement that happens so quickly every day, I really was removed from that. So when I was tapped on my shoulder to take on this role in 2014, and I accepted the opportunity because it was time for me to have this change and really continue growing and really getting back into the for-profit world for my own career advancement. It really was a huge risk for me personally and a challenge, jumping back into this other sector of telecom. I had been in telecom, but every one of them have their own niche and area of expertise required. So jumping in this role was very challenging for me, yet I took it on. And I really, just like what I had done in 1996, really rolled up my sleeves and put on all my learning antennas up, and really started learning the business and the products and the offerings and the solutions that we have, so I can be better at it. So I guess that's one way to answer it. You really have to be passionate and dedicated and committed to whatever area that you're in. And if it's not something you're interested in and you're just doing it for the paycheck or just to get it ahead of the role that you're in, I don't recommend anybody working with that mindset. You really have to love what it is that you sell or are promoting or are representing to really be successful. And if it's not that, then I would change gears and really go find my passion. I hope that answered the question.
Yes.
Okay.
And finally, here's my own question. Some people are shy or they don't know how to network, and you are the ultimate networker. I often get asked for advice as well about how to connect with people. Do you have any words on that? And then also, you also plan a lot of events that do have impact in the community. Did you have an event planning background, or did you just kind of just start and grew that talent?
Yeah. So I was never this outspoken and confident, and this wasn't me if you had met me 20 years ago. I was actually very I was very active always. I was always very involved ever since I was a kid, but I was kind of an introvert at the same time. I was just a doer. I was somebody who just, you give me a project, I get it done, no questions asked, I just go figure it out. But over the years, life experiences and really, working on myself, there's so many resources for you to grow and learn, and how to communicate and how to network. All these tools are so readily available, and it's all a matter of practicing, learning, and then putting what you've learned into action. So over the years, it's just kind of, I've grown to be this person. I never was this public person. It wasn't my thing. So some people think I was born this way. No, I really worked on myself to grow myself to get to this point, to gain the confidence. And obviously, the harder you work and the more you expose yourself to new projects and raise your hand to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, and then learning, it just helps you get to that point. But I don't think with today, it's so much easier to network and to be a go-getter and really present yourself in so many different forums to be noticed, and for people to listen to you if you're authentic, and if you're honest, if you're really genuine about your goal. People will listen to you, people will respond to that.
And one thing about you, which I don't know if you know this, but one thing about Bita that's so great is she will voluntarily connect people that she thinks will benefit each other, even when there's no incentive for her to do it. So I think that's also a part of networking.
Sure.
It's really good to connect people.
I just connected. I'm part of this beautiful network now called chief.com, and there's exchanges there. People always asking for things, helping each other, networking. And there was a woman who's in the fashion industry asking for a speaker, and I immediately recommended one of our own fashion designers, and now they're talking, and there's nothing in it for me. I'm not even in the fashion world, but it makes me, it's satisfying to me to see two people who can benefit each other come together, and they can go make magic happen. At the end of the day, they're making a difference in the world, which then it's going to benefit me and everybody else in the world. So that's the mindset we have to practice more and more, rather than what's in it for me, which is unfortunately a lot of times that's the case.
So yeah, exactly. That's part of networking as well, connecting people.
To answer your question regarding producing events, I think because again, it goes back to our Virgo traits and being organizers and really passionate about bringing people together. In 2001 is really when I had my aha moment, 20 years this year, that I want to get involved with nonprofits and my community. I was 13 when I left Iran. So in 2001, I was 27, 28. And I just had this thing that drew me back to the community mainly, and wanted to give back. And that's how I started working with different nonprofits. And the way it worked is that this particular nonprofit that I got introduced to, they had a lot of gala fundraising events back then. So with my corporate marketing background and being Iranian, I kind of got, and back then we didn't have as much technology as today. Everything was PowerPoint slides, and nobody knew PowerPoint back then. So I started using my skill sets to try to help out. And as a result, I just honed, while working in the professional world, I kind of combined these things and started producing a lot of events. And then from there, I started my company, Butterfly Buzz, through which I've produced a lot of concerts and theater and galleries and so much more, with the mission of helping crossover Iranian artists to the mainstream world, so we can be represented through the arts. And obviously with Farhang Foundation, did many programs there. So it's something, and of course in my own company life, we have these incredible, huge conferences that we bring people from all around the world. So I get a kick out of it, I guess, to produce events. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of detailed work. And I've kind of figured out how to do things quality with minimal spend, keeping in budget in mind, while things looking glamorous and over the top, and just bringing humans together.
It just goes to show that if you're adaptable and flexible, even, you might not have studied to become an event planner, but look what things lead to. So it's good to always be open-minded and take on new challenges and try things that you haven't done before, because you'll learn and
Exactly.
you might pivot and you might even change your career.
Exactly. And look at like my cooking thing. Like I just genuinely started sharing my journey of how I wanted to become healthier, and just randomly started sharing the videos, and here my my cooking profile is popular than my own personal profile because people resonated with my goal. And I guess it's interesting to them to see somebody with a busy life schedule and commitments, trying to do something for herself while sharing it with others. And I'm doing it freely and openly. And I just want to help others the way it has, this journey has helped me, and, have fun with it at the same time. So we all should try to go outside of our comfort zone. We all should try something different. And even if it fails, so what? It's something you've tried. It's something that has helped you grow, and grow not just, it doesn't have to always be monetarily. It can be also emotionally, and how you think about things. If you don't do different things, you can never think differently. And when we don't think differently, then we're stuck. We never grow.
And you hit it earlier. You said you have to be authentic, and I understand what that means, but in case the listeners don't understand what that means, can you just quickly tell them what being authentic means and how it can help you with everything in life?
Being authentic means being your true self, and not trying to pretend being something you're not, or be like somebody else. You can be a version of somebody else that inspires you, but at the end of the day, you have to be yourself. You have to be genuinely communicating with your whoever it is, whether it's your circle, whether it's your audience, whether it's your business, your customers. If you see companies succeed when the leadership in that company is truly genuine and honest and transparent. We all are humans. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. No relationship is perfect. But it's how we take that imperfection, and by communicating, by being, truthful to one another, by admitting to our shortcomings and trying to make amends with the things that we may have, not knowingly or not intentionally done wrong, to try to fix it or to go forward. And when you are that, whether it's on social media or other places, then people resonate, then people appreciate you more than anything else.
Thank you. Exactly. So I think we don't have any other questions, right, Taharet? Or
Yes, yes.
okay, so I can turn it over to you unless there's anything else that you think we should touch on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for moderating this webinar, Leila John. Dear Bita, once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this webinar with Persia. We've been watching your amazing and wide-ranging contributions to the world around you for a number of years. And the manner in which you show creativity, you show resilience in the face of all the challenges that may have come your way as an immigrant, as a woman, as someone of a different background in the community where you live, is nothing less than inspiring. And with the fact that you are at the height of your career at this moment, one may assume that this is all that your authentic self is able to reflect around you. But I have no doubt, having listened to you once more today, that we're just at the start of the journey of being inspired by the spectacular Bita Milanian. This is a wonderful time to hear you speak, because as we're emerging out of the pandemic, every single one of us are trying to find a way of redefining ourselves in the face of the new normal that we are experiencing, and how our authentic self, or being in our element, could become a source of good for everyone around us, be it our immediate circle or the society which we're a part of. So thank you so much for giving us food for thought, for giving us inspiration, for giving us tips on how to become better and live our best lives. We will continue to watch your social media and hopefully receive more inspiration from you to do our best in every way possible. Your social media details will be shared on Persia once more. And I want to thank you again. There it is. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything you did for today's webinar. Thank you, Leila John, for joining us. Please continue to watch this space for future webinars offered by Persia. If you're interested in getting involved with Persia Educational Foundation, please email us through our website or through our social media. Contact us anytime. Thank you and have a pleasant rest of the day. Thank you for your time.
There's a typo in Bita's Kitchen official. There's
Oh, yeah. Thank you for catching that.
the A is missing. Should be Bita.
That's what happens when you work late at night. But Tahir Jun, you've been more than generous to me. I don't know what to say. It was my pleasure to be here. And I hope to see all of us really be kinder to ourselves first and really love ourselves, especially coming out of the pandemic. It's so important to take care of our health, take care of our mental health and everyone around us, and just continue being loving and caring, and more than ever, try to give back to our communities that we live in, whether it's in our little neighborhood, whether it's in the global community, whatever way, shape, or form. More than ever, humanity needs humanity. So those are my final words, and I'm humbled and I'm grateful for being here again today. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone who joined.
Thank you.